It really feels like a lot of supercar manufacturers, they're in this dilemma now. Should they move forward with their EV plans, or should they skip it altogether and turn those into hybrids and, internal plug-in hybrids and internal combustion engine versions? That seems to happen with Lamborghini as well. Remember the Lanzador concept from the Monterey Car Week in 2023? How they introduced this as Lamborghini's first EV? Well, now they're changing this up, and I think this is actually going to be a plug-in hybrid now moving forward. Very, very interesting news from Lamborghini. We're going to have a look at this. So how can we expect this to look like if they actually turn this into a plug-in hybrid? I'm going to show you an example of that later in this video in Photoshop and talk about this design in general, why I think it's pretty strange about this design. There are a couple of things that I feel look pretty strange with this design, specifically in a side view. It looks like a Lamborghini with the Lamborghini DNA mixed with the Mercedes EQ bubbliness proportions. It's a strange looking car. For sure, I think the proportions as a plug-in hybrid will look much better. Before we have a look at the details of what's going on with the Lamborghini Lanzador, let's take a minute to thank today's sponsor, Redtiger. Redtiger sent me this, the View Clear 70. We got 4K front camera for this dash cam. We got 2.5K rear camera, so I'm gonna put it in this car. So the camera itself looks pretty sweet. It's a very small, almost like a GoPro size. As you can see, we have the rear camera right there. We have voice command, so we can go to show front camera. Date stamp, speed stamp, all of this I want to have them be on, because this is the information that you're going to have inside of the videos. For example, you happen to be in an accident, you have the power button down here, and you also have a bunch of buttons in the lower section. With the View Clear 70 from Redtiger, you also get a hardwire kit that you can plug in straight into the car's battery, which means that you have parking surveillance and a parking guard. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of this Redtiger View Clear 70 camera. I'm gonna show you some daytime footage and also some nighttime footage. So what is the spec and tech of the Redtiger View Clear 70? So it comes with dual Sony IMX 678 image sensors, dual Starvis 2 Starlight night vision technology, and dual HDR. The rear camera is a 2.5K camera with OmniVision's new generation, featuring something called Wondrix TM pixel technology. You can either connect it to the Wi-Fi with your phone and just simply download the files to your phone that way and then transfer it to your computer, because you do have high-speed Wi-Fi here compared to traditional 2.4 gigahertz and 2 megabyte per second. This one has 5.8 gigahertz or 8 megabytes per second. So the download speeds are very fast, even though in this video I did speed it up a little bit just for the sake of the length of this video. And you also have a 4-fold increase in speed compared to regular dash cams. Now, if you want this camera for yourself, I'm gonna link it down below in the description, so go and check that out. This one is the Redtiger View Clear 70, and of course thanks to Redtiger for sponsoring this video. Let's check out what this is all about from this article from Car Scoops. Lamborghini's first EV might end up with gas after all. The Italian brand is close to deciding whether to retain electric power for its Lanzador crossover, or if they should switch over to a plug-in hybrid engine. It was promised at the launch in 2023 that this was going to be the brand's first full 100% EV. It could instead launch its high-riding GT as a plug-in hybrid. It will make the call within weeks on whether its sleek 2+2 Grand Tourer goes full battery or blends volts with V8 Thunder in preparation for its production debut at the end of the decade. And I personally, I mean, it's a Lamborghini. How are you going to make a Lamborghini sell? How are you going to sell a Lamborghini EV to the current Lamborghini customer base? Why do people buy Lamborghinis? First of all, I mean, just think about that. I think maybe over 50% of the reason is because of the visceral feel you get when you're stepping on the gas pedal in a Lamborghini. The noise, the vibration. Lamborghinis are so raw compared to, for example, Ferraris. It's a completely different philosophy there. And how are they going to translate that into the EV and still be able to sell it in a package that is not very common for Lamborghini? I mean, I don't think we've seen a vehicle like this. The Urus is as close to this as it gets, but this still has some very strange proportions to it. So the Lanzador looked like a mashup of the Urus SUV and the Huracan Sterato supercar when it first came out. So Lambo claimed over 1,350 horsepower of output and next-gen 980-volt tech, pitching it as the figurehead for its post-gasoline ambitions. But somewhere between the concept stands and the balance sheet, reality hit Lamborghini. And this is the reality I'm talking about. Like, is this really a good idea? Is it really a good investment to invest in this vehicle and try to make sales with this? I'm not entirely sure. We could do, so here's the CEO of Lamborghini. We could do a battery electric vehicle, but I think it is a bad offer for the next few years. Lambo buyers don't see battery electric vehicles as an alternative today, he says. The plug-in system from the new Temerario and Urus SC already made for the job, combining the twin turbo V8s with electric assist. So they already have the technology in production vehicles today. And for me, it just makes sense to put that technology and wait a little bit until if we can ever figure out how to make EVs as exciting as V8s. I don't see that happening for a very, very long time, if ever. So in the meantime, let's just use the technology we have and put the plug-in hybrid V8 into this vehicle. The Urus was also meant to go fully electric before Lamborghini quietly changed course on that one as well earlier this year. So it's a very interesting situation for supercar manufacturers now. Winkelmann is the kind of level-headed, pragmatic boss who goes where the money takes him. It's not important, he says, what you can achieve in technology. It's important what the customer wants. That is the bottom line here for all these manufacturers. I mean, the design from a three-quarter rear view looks very clean. Three-quarter front view looks decent as well. It's only the side view that's where the proportions comes in with this EV proportions that I've never really been a massive fan of. And I want to show you, let's jump into Photoshop here and have a look at this design in detail. What exactly it is, I think, is pretty strange with this design. So from a three-quarter front view, we clearly have the Lamborghini DNA intact here, obviously, with this very sharp front end looking very tight. And we have these beautiful headlights in this area. Thankfully, it's not just two lines like this. You can see we have some dynamic vibe here because this piece in the outer section is thicker than the inner piece. Love that it sits within a black housing and also that it sits in the correct position, not having some sort of headlight unit down here like we see a lot of other manufacturers doing. Looks like we also have a daytime run light right here. This might be the indicator light. I'm not entirely sure. And we have these typical Lamborghini fins in the front end that I love to see on a concept like this, because if we have these type of proportions that are not very common or unheard of from Lamborghini, that means that we need to hammer in on the key graphic details even more than we would on a regular, two-door mid-engine sports car to make it feel Lamborghini still, even though we have these brand new proportions that we have right here. We have Lanzador in the middle. These do not look to be intakes. They might be active intakes. I'm not entirely sure because, of course, you don't need to cool an engine here. You only need to cool the battery. So we need to have some sort of opening in the lower section. That looks to be exactly what we have here. I've always loved these wheels. These wheels look great on the Lanzador, but the proportions here, this is where it gets a little tricky for me, because look at the greenhouse here. Now, I do know that the Lamborghini generally, we have this DNA, we have one single line for the two-door supercars and sports cars that goes in a single curvature all the way to the front end. But I don't feel like it works as well when we're trying to put this design language or this line on bigger, SUV-like volumes like we have here. We still have a nice muscle over the rear axle and this arrow shape creating this forward movement even when the vehicle is standing, still looking pretty cool. And again, we have this volume down here with the blacked out portions to reduce some of the mass in the lower section. You can see the diffuser sticks up very, very high here as well to, again, reduce some of this weight visually. We have a nice muscle over the front axle, but the A-pillar goes way too far in this case. And I don't feel like this chiseledness that we have, or this rake design that we have in the regular Lamborghini vehicles, works as well in this case. You can see just how far back the greenhouse goes. The greenhouse goes all the way with the glass portion right over the rear axle. It's a massive greenhouse. And of course, this is what you can do when you're playing around with a battery pack underneath and you don't need to have a transmission or an engine in the back here or anything like that, because that brings in a lot more space for the interior and the cabin proportions. And that is the reason why I think this looks pretty strange in a side view, but it still has the Lamborghini vibe to it. Now, looking at it from a 3/4 rear view here, this is my favorite view for this vehicle. The front end looks great as well, but I think this is the view where it does not look too out of the box for Lamborghini. It still looks like a Lamborghini here. We have this massive muscle again over the rear axle. You can see the line flowing the side here looking beautiful. And we have this big diffuser in the lower section sticking out here. But what's missing here is, of course, exhaust pipes in the middle. We want to have a big exhaust pipe right here somewhere, USB slot, something like that. Maybe quad pipes in here hiding. But I do like the chamfers here, chamfer up top, chamfer in the lower section, creating a nice housing and framing for the taillight designs in this area. And also this probably, hopefully, a functional air slot there for the air in the wheel well to escape and create less pressure in the back. The interior, though, this is where it gets very conceptual for me. I don't think we're gonna have this type of interior for the production version. This feature in the middle, I don't know how far we've come, honestly, in interior design. This could, in some aspect, be pretty close to what we're gonna see in the production version, if we have the capability right now to put interiors like this that look very conceptual. Maybe 5 years ago, maybe we've reached the point where we can actually manufacture something like this. And the steering wheel looks great as well with the carbon fiber in the lower section. We have a lot of toggles and dials and, you know, suspension settings, drive modes in the steering wheel as well. I like that we have almost a horizontal gauge cluster there, looking very interesting, in addition to a separate screen for the passenger over here. This is probably the gear selector, I would assume. Not entirely sure. It looks like a small little spaceship is just sitting there in the middle. And we have a small armrest there. And of course, this to flap this up and turn on the vehicle. The engine start button is most likely what that is right there. Now, what could this look like if we turn this into an internal combustion engine vehicle? Now, as I said, with the Lanzador in general, what we need to do here is we need to keep a very familiar face for Lamborghini in these type of proportions, because we need to push hard on the key graphics of Lamborghini, because these are proportions we've never seen before. So we don't want to make it too unusual for customers. We still need to make it a clearly Lamborghini DNA. And I think something like this, where we dial it down a little bit, this being probably, maybe, I don't know if it's going to be a 2-door or a 4-door, but if we have it a 4-door like this, it shouldn't be too wild in its design. It should be more conventional and more just clean graphics, exactly like we have here with the old style for the headlights. I'm not sure if it's going to use the Y shape that we have, for example, for Lamborghini Revuelto, where we have the big Y shape, something like this. I don't think that's going to happen for the Lanzador. I think it's going to be a little more subtle than that. And I do think this could be something close to what we're going to see for the Lanzador production version. Looking pretty clean, in my opinion. We have the Y shape for the headlight unit here in dual situations right there for the key graphics. Same, of course, on the other side. And we have some nice, beautiful lines in the hood design here as well, creating these typical Lamborghini DNA that we want to see. From a rear view, not sure if this is exactly, close to what the Lanzador is going to look like. I think we're still probably going to have the same type of taillights we have here. But personally, I still prefer the Y-shaped taillights that we have in this area. I think these still look so much better than the three circles or ellipses that we have for the concept. This, to me, screams more Lamborghini DNA with the Y shape still. I still think they can still use it for a couple of more years before they switch it up to something else. And a lot of sharp areas here, as you can see. We have a diffuser in the lower section with the exhaust pipes on each side. I would probably, maybe I should move the exhaust pipes right here to the middle section and have this USB slot in the rear end. But this is what the Lanzador could look like as a plug-in hybrid. I'm not entirely sure what Lamborghini is going to do with the Lanzador. They still haven't made a final decision whether they are going to keep this a full battery electric vehicle. I don't think they're going to go that route, though, because I don't think it makes sense right now, today. Maybe in 5-10 years, they can do that. But for now, I would still want to use the same twin-turbo V8 with the plug-in system that we have in the Temerario and just slap it into these type of proportions.